do Katie's rule. Oh, there we go. Okay, never mind.
We are
All right.
recording.
Okay, good
Meeting
evening,
has started.
everyone. It's 6 o'clock and the meeting's officially called to order. Good evening. Welcome to the Ad Hoc City Committee meeting. With us are council members Goldstein, Dunn, Najelski Eitner, and also with us are council members Ann Wintersteen, and we are also joined by our Chief of Staff, Tom Livingston. And next is item on the agenda is public participation. Jody, do we have anyone that would like to speak?
We do. All right. All right, we have Diane Lauricella, and she
Okay,
would like to speak.
sure. You can go ahead and mute her. And as a reminder, you have 3 minutes to speak to an item directly on the agenda. Otherwise, I will disconnect you. So please go ahead and start with your first and last name, and you may speak.
Good evening, Chair Lopez and committee, ad hoc committee, as well as Ms. Trendler and Tom, the staff. For the record, my name is Diane Lauricella, 21 Little Fox Lane. I look forward tonight to listen to the presentations given for the possibility of the city joining the Global Covenant of Mayors, as well as ICLEI, which is something that when I was helping with the Mayor's Energy and Environmental Task Force that lasted only for about a year and a half. We looked at ICLEI as well. So I'm glad to see that. I didn't even think that was still in business, so to speak, but I'm glad to see that Ms. Trendler identified it as a possible way of making sure that we keep our options open and not reinvent the wheel. There are, in addition to this, I just wanted to say that there are many throughout the 62 slide show that I reviewed quickly. We refer to, or Jody, Ms. Trendler referred to the POCD, of which I was part of for many years. It's every 10 years, hopefully sooner, or whenever we want to amend it. And there are a lot of easy steps that we also, I'm hoping to hear about that we will sign up for that relate to the POCD. And that includes the CCSMM, which is the Connecticut Council on Sustainable Materials Management, which I brought to the attention of the mayor and Ms. Trendler and also Vanessa and Tom Zabo. Also, a great way to enact what is going on with the POCD, sorry about this background, is the making a final ban or moratorium on artificial turf fields, because that has to do with a lot of what Ms. Trendler will speak about tonight. So I look forward and I welcome her, of course, to Norwalk. I'm looking forward to this discussion tonight. And I would like to make sure that people like myself who are in a residence, also small business people, but also would like to help my city by being on a sustainability committee or a green team. There are a lot of us out there, and we could apply and give you our resume. I would very much like to help my city continue its forward motion to become the greenest city. But you do need more than just the council members because you're busy. The staff is busy. So I ask again that you consider having businesses like myself and people that are knowledgeable people to be part of some of your projects as blue ribbon task forces to help Ms. Trendler and this committee do awesome things. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Lauricella. Thank you. Jody, do we have anyone else that would like to speak?
It doesn't look like it right now. So
Okay, great. So this closes public participation. Let's go on to the acceptance of the meetings from our previous meeting. I don't have the date with me now, but can I have a motion to move this item forward? Anyone? Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. Any changes or corrections, deletions, anything of any kind? Going once, going twice. Okay, so all in favor of acceptance of the meeting? Thank you. Okay, now that
John, you muted
Oh,
yourself.
there we go. Sorry about that. All right, so that closes the part of the agenda. Now moving on to our main event here. Jody, I will turn it over to you. We're excited about this presentation, so whenever you're ready, we can get started.
Apologies, I did have this all
No
set.
problem.
Okay. Conflicting with my Zoom window here, sorry. Okay. All right. Is my screen sharing?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, great. So hello, everyone. I am Jody Trendler, and I am here to help make Norwalk the greenest city. So how am I going to do that? All right, so the greenest city. Tonight I want to talk about very quickly. I do have way too many slides, so I am going to speak quickly. I apologize for that. Feel free to stop me if you have questions. So I'm just going to tell you about my goals, my role, where we're at, and for being the greenest city, and where we're going to go, and why we're going, and how we're going to get there. So I am Jody Trendler, the Director for Sustainability and Resilience. My position is funded through June of 2026 through an ARPA grant and fellowship that's in conjunction with the Association of Climate Change Officers. So I was hired to help implement the Sustainability and Resilience Plan that the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency put into place March of last year. So why am I here? We need help define the greenest city. So it's fantastic that, you know, Norwalk wants to be the greenest city. And I have a good feeling that we probably are, but we need some validation. So we need some metrics and accounting and reporting to help give some validity to that. So that's going to be one of my primary jobs, is making sure that that happens. And then, like I said, I'm here to implement the Sustainability and Resilience Plan that's already been created, monitor progress, figure out how we're going to get there, come up with a plan to make sure that we're doing what we need to do. And then ultimately, through that process, I want to operationalize sustainability. So if you think about that, it's just a way to make sure that sustainability is integrated across all departments and becomes a way of just doing business. And I'm going to get into more details about all of these in a minute. My other thing that I'm here for is to help with resourcing. So I'm here for
Jody, real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think I keep hearing something in the background. I think Mr. Lurie, yeah, I think, there we go. I think Mr. Luricella is, okay, you can continue. I just, sorry, no problem. Go ahead.
So I'm here as a resource for everybody in the city. Sustainability questions, issues, come to me. I have lots of resources. I'm here to help find funding for things that are ongoing or coming up that we want to do. And I'm here to support through the process of transitioning and making things so that they are focused with that sustainability lens. And then finally, I'm here to be a cheerleader. So I want to do a lot of education and outreach. That's going to be part of it. And with that, it becomes essentially an opportunity for us to gain more support and more information, or more funds and more support, the more people know what great things that we're doing. So as I've gone through and met with people across the city, it's truly amazing how much is actually being done. And so we need to make sure that we're talking about that, because there's some really amazing things that are happening here in the city for sustainability. So over the next 16 months, my goal is to create a greenest city accounting platform. So we need to be able to monitor and track what we're doing. So a lot of that's going to evolve around a greenhouse gas platform, so keeping track of our emissions. And then with that database that I'm creating, it's also going to incorporate other factors, other certification things that the city does. So if you think of our Tree City USA, the American Biking League. There's a few other programs and certifications that the city engages in and will be engaging in. And I'm going to incorporate those all into a compiled database so that it's streamlined and easy and much more efficient to keep track of everything that's going on. And so one of the ways that I'm going to help do that is we're establishing an internal green team. So this will be an ongoing initiative, and it's a way for city officials, city staff to come through and essentially collaborate more effectively. So communicate and collaborate and make sure, you know, the right hand knows what the left hand is doing so that we are, you know, eliminating redundancies and making sure that, you know, we can maximize the money that we do have and money that we're trying to get. Another thing that we're going to be doing with the green team is creating a prioritization framework. So what this is going to do, it's going to be an evaluation tool that as projects come up, will evaluate all the criteria based on the criteria, we'll evaluate the project based on the criteria that's in this framework and essentially what's involved in this. So typically projects are evaluated for cost, obviously, and then feasibility. So what is our staffing capacity and what's it going to take? But what the framework is going to do, it's going to incorporate a lot of those externalities that are typically not considered in decision-making. And these are all the things that make our community green. So it's going to include the analysis of emissions and, you know, the health benefits, the other environmental benefits, and any economic benefits. So all of these things will be looked at and considered as projects are being evaluated on what's going to be done. So again, like I mentioned, I'm going to also continue to identify resources and support everything that's going on. And I'm going to be creating a newsletter and monthly events for residents and businesses. So it's just going to be a way to coordinate, you know, and make Earth Day every day, or at least every month, so that it's not just a one-time event thing. And the other thing, to Ms. Lortella's point, is it's a lot of it is going to work with coordinating and bringing in the efforts of our community. So instead of having all those great organizations that are coming together on Earth Day for one day, it's going to be a way to consistently coordinate them and organize efforts so that efforts can be synergized and made more effective. And then ideally too, we're going to work on getting updating the city's dashboard for sustainability. All right, so I just want to touch on briefly here, greenhouse gases. For those of you who don't know, there's 4 primary areas. So carbon dioxide, I'm sure most of you are familiar with. So these are, it comes from burning fossil fuels. So any of our energy resources for our homes and our cars. Methane is generated from our landfills. Although most of our waste here is incinerated, so that's not so much of an issue here. But composted organic waste, and then there's also nitrous oxide, and that's primarily coming from our vehicles. And then there's also fluorinated gases, and that comes from our refrigerants. So those are the main areas. But when we talk about greenhouse gas emissions, everything is equated into a carbon dioxide, the equivalent of a carbon dioxide number. So carbon dioxide is the least dangerous of all of these. But everything is transitioned to those numbers as we're tracking. All right, so our greenest city. So Mayor Rilling is, everybody knows, Mayor Rilling's goal is to make Norwalk the greenest city. So what does that mean? That's what we're going to be working on. So in the green team, we're going to be working on defining that and coming up with a specific definition for greenest. We'll talk about in a little bit. We're also going to be gaining public input on that. But essentially what we need to do is come up with our KPIs so that we can validate that we are the greenest city. And greenhouse gases are going to be that primary indicator for that. And so why we do that and why that's important is because greenhouse gases are essentially our standardization tool so that we can compare apples to apples. So the idea is to transition all impacts and effects of actions into a carbon dioxide equivalency. And then we can compare, you know, the impacts of whatever our actions are. And then, of course, we're going to have co-benefits. And these are the aspects of projects and implementing sustainability and being green that the public generally cares about. So, you know, the health, the pollution, the safety, you know, the economic security. And so essentially it's my job is to help coordinate all of this effort and then do the analysis so that we can get down to that apples to apples comparison and then help with that process of making sure that we are, you know, getting the biggest bang for our buck, so to speak. So again, with our greenhouse gases being our primary metrics, so it's my job. I'll be doing the analysis and tracking of projects, and it's your all jobs, along with other city leaders, to do the decision making and prioritization and deciding, you know, how you want to prioritize projects. And that's just an example of a potential dashboard. So our co-benefits, again, just to emphasize, these are the external metrics that are the consequence, either good or bad, either positively or negatively impacted when we do a project. So like human health, safety, you know, planning for resilience, disasters, economic development, making sure that we are being fiscally responsible. So I always like to tell people sustainability is about efficiency. So when you're reducing waste and pollution, you generally have savings and other more positive benefits when you do that. Ecological restoration, clean air and water, and obviously reducing waste, just to name a few. Essentially, these are all the things that make Norwalk the greatest place, you know, a great place to live. You know, this is why people want to be here. It's because of all of these co-benefits. And when we do things with the sustainability lens focus, this is what happens. And all of these great things about our community are actually magnified. All right, so where are we at? So as part of the Sustainability Resilience Plan that the Redevelopment Agency sponsored, we found out that most of our emissions are coming from energy sources. So it's our electricity and fuels that we use for our buildings. So 46% is coming from our buildings, 42% is coming from transportation, and then the rest is coming from waste. And you can see all those numbers broken down there. And the key thing is, when you think about this, it helps prioritize where we want to direct our actions. So if you break it down, vehicles, so our cars are the highest percentage versus our homes are 25%, and our energy use from our businesses and commercial buildings is 19%. So you can see electrifying and getting rid of our fossil fuel vehicles is a pretty high priority. So we can focus efforts on that. So in the SRP that was done, they did identify some potential actions that could be taken to reduce emissions. However, unfortunately, that only accounted for 24% of our emissions. And so it's going to be my goal, my objective and assignment is to figure out how we're going to meet that other 76% in order to get to the IPCC recommendations. So where are we going? Those IPCC recommendations are to get to net zero by 2050. And one of the ways that that's being accounted for and managed is essentially the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy is an organization that is really helping to solidify the tangential aspects of this and making it very concrete. So right now, the mayors of over 13,000 cities are pledged and committed to making this accomplishment. So it's a huge global organization, and there's a lot of global entities that have committed to this. And again, I'll talk about this more in a bit. So these also align with Connecticut state goals. So you can see the state also has goals. And so we'll be aligning our targets with the state and the IPCC goals. So our targets, Right now, there's only been 600,000 tons of CO2 planned to be addressed. So we've got about 2 million more that we need to figure out how we're going to manage. So just as an example, we'd need about 777 wind turbines to offset that. All right. So one of the other ways that we're going to be managing our and evaluating our greenness is through Sustainable Connecticut. And we are going through the recertification process right now. So you can see the last time Norwalk went through the certification, we were bronze. We had bronze status. And of the 138 registered cities, 37 are bronze, 18 are silver, and only 6 are gold. So needless to say, it is my objective to get Norwalk at the top of this list, which I have no doubt we will be able to do. And the goal is to have that done by August. And then there's another option of being a climate leader. So those are extra steps that cities have taken in order to demonstrate their sustainability. So why are we going? Obviously our children, it's like our future generations. We want to make sure that Norwalk is here, a healthy, safe, sound, great place to live for our future generation. Also, the important thing is that it aligns with the POCD goals and objectives. So under there, there's 3 primary goals under the sustainability section. So we're Norwalk City Government, a model of sustainability. Norwalk reduces greenhouse gas emissions and protect and manage Norwalk sensitive environmental resources. So everything that I've suggested is in line with that to help accomplish those goals. Some of the key findings that were identified in the POCD were that, but have been addressed already, is the city is working towards more sustainable stormwater management and low impact development. And it said that we didn't have the data needed to understand our greenhouse gas emissions, so which we do now. So then my objective right now is to eliminate these other factors and address integrating a systemic and integrated approach that brings a sustainability lens to all policy and actions as well. So it's like there's a health in all policies policy approach, but my goal is to implement sustainability in all policies, which also does incorporate health. So, and that's where that decision framework is going to come into play. So these are other examples in our POCD that we've done a great job of addressing and getting things done. But there still is a couple of things. So one of them was to create an interdepartmental sustainability committee. I'm doing that. And then one last one was to make sure that we have 100% renewable energy by 2029. So we're going to be talking about that. And then finally, reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So keeping in line with IPCC and the state, and working with our utilities to get more renewables into our purchased energy. All right. So we'll have a healthier community, we'll save money, we're going to restore ecosystems, and we're going to have additional benefits of increasing funding potential, improving our city branding. It's going to become even more of a place where people are going to want to live and work. And it's going to help with our insurance ratings. So keeping our bond rating and our insurance ratings strong. So how are we going to go there? We already have our sustainability and resilience plan. So what are we doing? So these are just the items that I've mentioned. So we're going to start with building a green team. We're going to work on defining the greenest. We're going to develop the sustainability and tracking database. And then I'm going to complete the, we need to identify our targets. We're going to complete the sustainability and resilience plan. And then we're going to develop the prioritization framework so that we can start evaluating our projects. And then we're going to do a lot of education and outreach about this and incorporating the public and bringing the community into this. This is a community effort by all means. And then this is an iterative process. So, it's a feedback. So as we go along, we'll do things and evaluate and see how they work and come back and update as needed. So we're going to have our green team. The idea is to help with integration, prioritization, communication, increasing efficiency, and maybe including a council member on that, Johan. So with our SRP, we still need to come up with a solid definition of greenness. We're going to come up with our targets and then prioritize our impact areas. So this is an example of what the decision-making framework is. And essentially what it's targeted at doing is creating this sustainability across all policies and projects approach. So it obviously focuses on cost, feasibility, but then it also includes emissions and then our co-benefits. And we're going to develop this in the green team. So the benefits of the framework are that we provide consistency across decision-making. So as budget time comes around, it'll make it easier to help evaluate projects that are proposed. It makes things more efficient. It justifies decisions. So if we come up with this standardized tool for, what creates a credible project or not, it's right there in black and white. So it makes it easier to justify. So how does it work? We've got the framework. We're going to develop the framework. Then a project is proposed. Then the emissions and co-benefits for that project would be identified and quantified. And then the decision framework will be employed, and it'll go through that criteria, that checklist of criteria, and then it'll get scored, and then it'll get figured out where that project should be prioritized. And then again, too, the final way that this is going to happen is I'm going to do education and outreach, like I said, with the monthly newsletter, residents, businesses, workshops. Going to be participating in Earth Day, asking the community, how do they define greenest? And it's going to be starting to get that public input. So any questions? Sorry, that went a little long, but.
No, Jody, thank you very much for the informative presentation. I like the fact that you highlighted some of the economic benefits associated with environmental sustainability, and you also mentioned the bond rating. I think a lot of people may or may not know that there is a direct link between environmental sustainability and the fiscal and financial health of the city, in many ways. So thank you very much for actually bringing that up. And also, quick question before I open it up to everyone else. In the city, we do have a significant number of community members that are really they're excited, they're really willing to participate and kind of provide their talents, efforts, etc. And can you just kind of quickly give us a little bit more about some of the more specifics, not too granular, but just general specifics about how you envision them getting involved that you didn't already mention?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a big collective impact advocate. So that is critical for making sustainability actually happen, because most of our emissions, they come from the community. They don't really come from city operations. City operations account for less than 2% of our impact. So the emissions come from the community. And so it is going to be imperative to create this essentially as Ms. Larcella was saying, that, we do need to incorporate a way for the community to consistently come together. And so that'll be through primarily, like I mentioned, with the bringing in the community organizations together as we develop initiatives and talk about planning and deciding what the community needs, and figuring out, it'll help figure out those most sustainable approaches, and hopefully make their efforts, our community organization efforts, less redundant as well and more efficient. So instead of having all these organizations competing for the same money, if we could pool resources and work together collectively, it'll be much more impactful. So just having the city serve as a coordinating entity for that.
Great. Thank you so much, Jody. Okay, so I'll open up to the rest of the group for any questions, comments, suggestions for Jody.
Nora.
Hi, so pleased to formally meet you and hear about your plan. I'm particularly excited about your sort of decisional framework. I think that is, it aligns with a lot of things I think this council has been talking about in terms of really helping us think about priorities and strategically organize things, when we have a lot going on, and limited funds, to be able to have, a clearer set of guidance and less of a back of the envelope kind of an approach. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And I'm a huge fan of sort of collective impact kind of approaches, and I'm excited to hear that. I wondered if you could speak to that a little bit, in terms of outreach to our Spanish-speaking community, our Creole-speaking community, how you're thinking about engaging organizations that don't have environmental issues sort of at the top of their agenda, but are nonetheless, I think, really fundamental to getting widespread buy-in. So if you could talk a little bit about kind of some of the approaches you're planning there.
Absolutely. So that completely falls under the collective impact approach. And so part of that effort is going to be, okay, caveat here, I've only been here for 2 months, so I am still learning about all the organizations, all the great organizations that are here in the city. And that is actually one of my things, is making sure that everyone is represented. So representation needs to come from, a broad spectrum of the community. And I'm actually probably going to be reaching out to you all to help me with that effort, to make sure that, each of your districts are included and have representation. So that was probably going to be my primary means of making sure that that happens, is finding out from you all, from your constituents, who needs to be at the table.
And certainly happy to have that conversation. I also think the water folks, this is a city of a lot of boaters and a lot of people are really passionate about the water. And I see that as another really interesting opportunity to, get folks who are not traditional environmentalists, but nonetheless have a pretty vested interest in one of our sort of most important environmental resources there. So I look forward to that conversation. Thank you.
Excellent. Me too. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Any questions, suggestions for Jody? All right, Josh, I think you have your hand down, or
No, but I
Okay, there
just
you go.
will
Or you're
just say that we're really grateful that you're on the team. And I'm frozen right now, like I look like I'm just staring into space, like I have nothing to say. But I just want to say that was a very complete presentation. I really appreciate it. And obviously we all greatly look forward to working with you.
Likewise. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So, Jody, thank you so much for the presentation. It's a great step forward. We certainly needed this. I mean, this was something that your role identified in the SRP. And so to be able to kind of really put together, kind of have everyone's efforts from the departments converge and make sure everyone's on the same page, everyone knows how to move forward. So thank you so much for the presentation. Any questions or concerns, I will be in touch. So with that said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, thank you, Councilmember Dunn. And thank you all, and I will talk to you really soon. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Jody.
Thank you.